It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, 435-339-0321. That's the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. That's how you can chime in and be a part of the show. Shortened show once again for us today. Utah Jazz are on the road, so they're going to cut into our broadcast time when they're continuing their East Coast road swing. And so we have a little bit of time to be here together and time for you to chime in on a variety of different topics. We've got some things we do want to get to, though. Utah State gymnastics headed to the NCAA Nationals, Regionals, I should say.
Be nice if they went to nationals.
Yes, that's a goal.
That's a tough ask for them.
But the path is there. They can do it. But it starts this week down in Salt Lake City. And Jason had a chance to catch up with Coach White. So we'll hear from her in just a minute. A couple of things of note for Utah State. Isaac Johnson, who we've known, has been in the portal over the weekend, announced where he is headed. So we'll update you on that. And a couple of the things going on. We got the start of the UFL. And former Aggie involved in that. We've got some. The NFL draft isn't that far away, and so some former Aggies moving up on those draft boards. So I'll update you on a lot of those different things going on.
There's just a million little things to get into because there's players entering the transfer portal elsewhere in the Mountain West, head coaching hires, like just. Not like one giant topic. It's just a bunch of different. I think I have like 16 bullet points. It feels like on our topic sheet of just various little things. Oh, buy this by the way, or this by the way, or that. Just in case. So, but we do want to get to this interview with Kristin White. We did have a chance to talk to her last week after the selection show. We did play the audio, but had a chance to sit down, ask a few more questions, get a little more in depth. Fair warning, I was using a lapel mic and mine died halfway through the interview or at some point in the interview. So I will randomly sound like I've doubled the distance between me and Kristin White. Luckily, she does like 90% of the talking and her mic is still alive throughout the entire interview. So when it sounds weird, that's
the reason.
That's you can know the little secret there. So let's go ahead and hear from Coach White and a little bit about her journey as a head coach with Utah State, the challenges she faced, and obviously what's been a spectacular season so far for the Aggies.
All right, so here with Utah State gymnastics head coach Kristin White. So going to regionals, heading down to Salt Lake, traveling on Tuesday.
Yep.
And then just spending the day there, prepping for the meet on Wednesday. Dual meet with BYU. But I kind of want to go all the way back to when you took over this job. I know I think we had you on the show when you took over. I think we've had you on the show a couple of times since then.
Yep.
But when you took over, I know you've talked about, the difficulty of taking over. I was looking at it earlier today. I think you had 11 players leave the program, graduations, transfers. I think 6 of them went to Clemson with Amy Smith, who was taking over, starting the program there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess just talk about the difficulty of, that kind of attrition doesn't normally happen in gymnastics. I know basketball, they're getting used to it every year.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a very unusual amount of attrition. Just what did it take for you to rebuild the program, especially considering the standard had been set pretty high? So you had those expectations maybe from supporters, but was it difficult to try and fulfill those right away? I know you didn't have too much of a dip, but there was a bit of a dip, and now you're back up at the top of the conference.
I mean, I knew coming in, obviously, we were going to lose some student athletes, and that, there was nothing I was going to do to be able to change that, right? And so the first and foremost was we needed to get recruiting so that we could bring back, some athletes to Utah State to kind of fill some of those gaps that we had. And like you said, you don't really see that in gymnastics. We were the first and only program, quite honestly, that has ever gone through a massive rebuild like that. Even to today, a team might lose 1 or 2 athletes a year, but they don't lose almost their entire roster. So it was definitely challenging. I mean, they had just come off a conference championship. They were qualified to regionals. They had a very successful year the year prior. So there was a lot of pressure just in what were we going to do in the first year to keep this thing going, right? We didn't have the numbers like they had in the past. And so we had to work really hard to make that better, quite honestly. And I'm just so incredibly proud of our team, right? This is our 3rd year that we've been doing this. We've been recruiting really hard. Our staff has been committed to giving it our all from day one to make this process as seamless and as easy as possible for everybody. And so to be able to win a conference championship this year and go back to regionals is just, it just makes me incredibly proud of our team. I mean, our seniors and juniors have been with us day one since we've been here, and they've bought into the process, and you can see them improve every single year, not just in the competition floor, but in academics, in community service, in their leadership style. Like, they have grown into such tremendous women that I'm incredibly proud to see everything that they've done. And so for our team to reach every single goal we set this year, it's a huge accomplishment for them. And I'm just really looking forward to finishing out the rest of the year with our team.
Did the shift from the Mountain Rim Gymnastics Conference to the Mountain West, I know that was a couple years, this is your second season, did that have any impact, or was it more of just it changed a couple of the teams that you faced in the season?
I think it did have an impact, right? Because the Mountain Rim was only created for the gymnastics schools that didn't have a major conference supporting them. So for us to be a part of the Mountain West was huge. It really created more of that championship feel, right? From a competitive standpoint, not too much has changed. We did lose BYU and Southern Utah, but we still do compete against them quite often. And so not much really changed from a gymnastics perspective. It was more just the feeling of being a part of a big conference, having the support from the Mountain West, like every other team here at Utah State does. And so I think that really excited our student athletes. In the past when they won the Mountain Rim, they got a trophy, but they didn't get the t-shirts and the hats and like the social recognition that they get now with the Mountain West. So I think it just means more to them. And they were incredibly proud to represent the Mountain West at the regional championships this week.
Not to spend too much time on conferences, but just the minute you get settled in the Mountain West, there's a move to the Pac-12, although I'm kind of confused in how that works. There's just a lot fewer gymnastics programs in the country. Mm-hmm. From what I would understand, there's only 3 teams, at least that I could count on a real quick search.
Correct.
Future Pac-12 teams that would be in a conference. So would you see something similar to the Mountain Rim, where it's like you bring in a team that isn't necessarily from in the Pac-12, but fill out to that, at least 4 teams in the conference?
Yeah, so we are fully supported by the Pac-12. I think the 4th team could kind of depend on what other team the Pac-12 might add from a football standpoint or basketball standpoint. If they have a gymnastics program, obviously we would love to have them be a part of our championship. However, if that doesn't happen, then I know that the Pac-12 will look at bringing in an affiliate and finalizing our conference from that standpoint. So I think there's still a little bit of unknown on exactly which direction we're going, but I do believe that it will be solidified hopefully sometime this summer so that we know going into the 26-27 competition year, we know exactly who's in our conference and who we'll be competing against.
Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about this year's conference championship. I know we had a chance to talk about this during this or after the selection show. I know you talked about PZF and that 0.05. But I kind of want to ask about the feeling going into that and just what led up to kind of, I guess, the disappointment there, because you were going into the Mountain West Championship. I mean, you guys were hosting, but you guys were, I think, 3rd in national qualifying score. Not that's the end-all, be-all of where you're going to place in a meet, but, you guys were the underdogs, and you came just that close to beating the 2 teams ahead. You beat one of the teams ahead of you in NQS. Just did that kind of add to the disappointment there and to the eventual motivation that you were the underdog and you nearly pulled off the upset at that, that magical upset at home?
Yeah, I mean, I think going into that championship, we didn't necessarily have the best year. We weren't the most consistent team, but we did have moments where we were great and that we knew that we could beat some of the teams that we were going against. And so there was no doubt in their mind they were going in to that competition to win the meet. And to come so short, it was very disappointing, but we still knew that we needed to get better and we needed to get mentally tougher. And so PZF really originated from that conference championship last year, losing by 0.05. But we took that motto and used it in different ways. The P stands for prepare, the Z is for zealous, and F is for finish. So we wanted to make sure that we did everything we could in the off season to be ready for the season. And I think we saw that this year. We had a much better start this season. We were ready. Our student athletes really grinded it out in the preseason. And there was no doubt in anybody's mind when that first competition happened that we were ready to go. The zealous part really comes from just having fun in the process. We did a lot of different things this year that we hadn't done in the past. And so they were going to be tired. They were going to be more sore. We were going to ask more from them, but I never wanted them to forget that there's a reason why we're doing this and we love to have fun with what we're doing. And so that was just a constant reminder during those hard times, like there is a reason why we're doing this. And we just got to remember that we got to have fun doing it. Yeah. And then obviously finish. For us, we wanted to be able to finish every turn we took in practice. We wanted to be able to finish every meet to the best of our ability. And we wanted to be able to finish the season with the goals that we had in mind for our team, which obviously came with winning a conference championship and going back to regionals. So just really proud of them of sticking it out, believing we are a much stronger, mentally tough team this year than I even imagined we probably would be. And I really do believe that came from the grind that we did in the preseason. We did a lot of work internally, working on our mental game and just putting ourselves in scenarios of what if something happens, how are we going to come out of it and be better for it? And so we had a lot of adversity this year, and they never shied away from a difficult task. And I think that's one of the things that I'm most proud about them is, if something happened, we got better through that process. Losing Nyla Morabito and Hattie Wright the last regular season meet of the year at Arizona, that was gut-wrenching for our team. You don't see that happen very often in gymnastics, to lose two athletes in the same warm-up within 5 minutes of each other. And so there were a lot of tears from our team, like devastated for their teammates, also probably a little bit of nervousness. What are we going to do to replace Nyla? She's been such a strong athlete for us. And we got better in that moment. And I was just so proud of how we came together and we fought for each other. And so I really think that moment really helped carry us through the conference championship, and know that if we do this together and we give our best in that moment, we really can reach any goal that we set.
You mentioned preparing mentally, and obviously you faced some of those situations and overcame them. How do you prepare yourself for those mental situations? Because it's kind of one of those things that you never know what you're going to do until you're in that moment. Like, what ways do you try and prepare your team to overcome those when they face that?
I think a lot of it, gymnastics is really hard, and we get very used to people coming out for an injury, whether it's a sprained ankle or for an illness, and kind of changing things on the fly. And so I think some of that is always kind of an unknown. It can happen, and this is what we're going to do, prepare for it. But a moment like that, I honestly don't think anybody was prepared for. Even as a coach, I think I was in shock for at least 30 minutes. Like, I can't believe this is happening. What's our next step? What are we going to go do? I don't want the athletes to know that, I'm sad, I'm scared, I'm nervous for them. And so I really had to do some self-reflection and be strong and just tell them we're going to get through it and we're going to do our best gymnastics today. And so I also let them know I love them. There was a lot of mom in me that came out in that moment and gave them some big hugs, and we shed some tears, and then we just grinded from there on out. So Coach Robert likes to play a lot of scenarios in his bar lineup. What if the lights go out in the arena and you can't warm up? How are you going to prepare for that situation? What happens if, Sydney or somebody in our team is ill and can't compete? What are we going to do in that situation? So he does a lot of different scenarios that I think just helps them in the long run to prepare that anything can happen, and they got to be ready whenever that moment does come, and they got to attack it and know what to do.
So something they can fall back on. So it's like, it's one less thing for them to worry about in what is a very mental game.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask about, you also mentioned grinding things out in the preseason, and looking ahead to the regionals, probably one of the best references we have for that is the Best of Utah meet. I know that's a while ago, their second meet of the season, but it's our lone reference point at this point. Granted, that was one of your better things, your fourth best score of the year. You beat BYU, the team that you're facing. Of course, Utah, they put up like a dang near 198 because they're Utah. But is there anything you can take from that meet or anything you can learn from that? Or is it just far enough back that you're just a different team at this point? There's not a whole lot maybe you can learn from those previous performances.
I still think there's a lot of things that we can learn from those moments. I think, one of the cool things is we actually started our season at the University of Utah this year, which that's where we're going back for the regional. And so it was the first time our freshmen had ever competed in that arena. So we are more prepared to go in there and do a great job because we've already competed in that environment. We know what it feels like. We know what their equipment feels like. We had some adversity in that meet that we had to kind of work through and get a little bit better. And so then having the Best of Utah, anytime you can compete against one of the Utah schools, you're fired up. You want to win. You want to put your best gymnastics out there. And I do think we are a much better team than what we showed at the Best of Utah, even though that was one of our best meets. Historically, the Best of Utah has always been one of our best meets just because of the environment of being on the podium and competing with the 4 schools from the state of Utah. So I do think that we are a better team. We're more mentally tough and we're ready to go. They want to beat BYU. They want to qualify to round 2. And if there's one thing I've learned from this team, when they set their mind to their goal, they're going to do everything they can to achieve it.
I know you mentioned the very first meet when you faced, was it Utah and Southern Utah that you faced in that? Was it tri-meet, I think, the season opener?
It was just Utah.
Was it just Utah? Okay. So I know in that one, you put up like a 194, and it was one of the lower scores. But then you followed it up with a 196. Was that kind of a wake-up call? It's like, hey, this is not the start we wanted. And then pretty much immediately, you kind of got out of that funk.
To be honest, it actually was a really good start. I think when I came in your studio in the beginning, I talked about this new process with the scoreboard and how our judges were going to be evaluated. And so at the beginning of our season, scores were some of the historically lowest scores that we've seen in our sport for a very, very long time. And so I don't think the 194 was really reflective of the performance we did. I think it was the judges come out. It was the first meet of the season. They're a little bit rusty because they haven't been judging college for a while. And they were applying some of these more harsh deductions that we were asking them to apply. And so I think you saw that across the board for the first half of the competitive season. And I think judging has gone back to what we were more used to in the last few years, the last half of the season. And so I think some of it was just tight judging, but I really do think that we were the most prepared we've been since I've been here.
So the judges are just being haters.
I wouldn't say haters. Like as a coaching association, we asked them to start applying these deductions and just be more consistent across the country. There are sometimes when you go to other competitions, same weekend, different set of judges, and the scores are much higher than you'll see across some other competitions in the same weekend. And so I think as an organization, we get frustrated because there isn't consistency in that, but we're also a subjective sport, right? And so different environments, different angles, like things can look different in their mind. So I think we were trying to do something new this year. I think, unfortunately, it probably failed miserably. And so we're going to have to go back into the association and figure out what are we going to do to fix it. So judges are just doing their job, right? They judge the score, and that's the score that they give. So, but I do think it has changed over the last several weeks compared to what we've seen in the beginning of the season.
I'll ask you a trap question. How often do you disagree with the judges on the scores they give for your athletes?
To be honest with you, I don't ever really disagree with the score for the majority of the time that they give us, because I can see where those deductions come from. In our sport, if you are short on a handstand or you take a step, it could be 0.5 tenth, 1 tenth, up to 0.3, right? So it is very subjective. So if a judge chooses to take the max 0.3 on a deduction for a skill, I can see that. I think sometimes as a coach, your frustration comes in, did they do that for the other team? are they consistent in what they're taking? And so I think sometimes if you see me get pretty fired up at a meet with a score, it's because I want to make sure that it's consistent judging throughout, not so much of I don't believe they should have given that score, because I do see where deductions can come from. And I like to give the judge the benefit of the doubt that they are truly giving us the best score that they think they should give us. So a lot of it's just from like, okay, if vault judging is a little bit tight, I want to make sure that vault judging is tight when the next team comes over. Even if they're a better team, it should still be tight if you were tight for my team. And so I think that's where a lot of the frustration gets, is like, is it the same for both?
Yeah, it seems to be consistent across all sports.
Mm-hmm.
Getting mad at the officials is usually over about consistency than the call itself.
Yeah, same thing with basketball. Like, no one really argues if it was a 2-point shot or a 3-point shot. It's more of like, did you call me for traveling? And did you call them for traveling? Yeah. And if you didn't, like, we got to be consistent here, right?
So I want to ask about the athletes that qualified for regionals, with their own scores. And I forgot my notes. So it was Brianna, Nyla, and Abby.
So we had Brianna is doing bars and beam. Yeah. Nyla was actually qualified for vault and floor, but unfortunately had to pull out because of her injury. Then we had Avery, who is qualified on bars. Sydney Jellen qualified for balance beam. And then we actually just got a late add, London Vandertool, qualified on the uneven bars.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think it's confusing Avery for Abby. I don't know.
Yep, you're good.
But just tell me about those athletes in their work, because Brianna was the only one who qualified last year for regionals. And now you've got, quite a few more who qualified. Just tell me about their seasons and their growth to, being able to qualify for regionals.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things is our team has known that BB has been the only one to qualify over the last 2 years. And I think it is no surprise that we had 5 qualify this year because of the success of the team. And so I think that's been one of the coolest moments, to see them realize when the team is having great success and we're all on the same page, the individual accolades will come after. And so I think that was incredibly cool to have 5 athletes qualify to NCAA regionals. And they're excited. BB's been there twice in the last couple of years by herself, and she wanted to go with her team. And so she gets that opportunity. But for her, she wants to try to qualify the national championship. She's been close every year that she's been here. And so that is definitely a goal for her that she'll be wanting to try to achieve in round 2. She's been an awesome leader for us, and just really proud of everything she's done. In terms of some of our other individuals, Avery Bibby and London Vandertool, phenomenal bar workers. I think it's no surprise that both of them have qualified because they've been some of our highest bar scores this entire year. Avery's been in the bar lineup for 3 seasons at Utah State, and London is one of the best bar workers in the country. So they both have definitely earned that position. And, kudos to Coach Robert to have 3 bar workers competing in the regional is pretty incredible. And then over on beam, Sydney Jellen competing on beam. One of the coolest things is she's actually our starter on the beam lineup. And so sometimes people think your starter is maybe not the best athlete, right? And you're building your lineup so that your best athlete goes at the end of the lineup. And so for us, Sydney is one of our best beamers, and she is one of the toughest competitors I've ever met. So for her to be a starter is really awesome. And the fact that she's qualified to regionals in that position is really cool. So just incredibly proud of all the hard work that they've put in to get to this point, and excited to hopefully for them to compete as a team in round 2. But if we don't qualify as a team, for them to have a ton of success individually to continue to move on.
I know you mentioned basically hitting all of your goals this season. It's just obviously, conference championship and regionals. I imagine those were some of the goals. But just tell me about the goals that you wanted to see the team hit. Now, what are kind of the new goals as you head into regionals, and what you want to see from this team in regional qualifying, even though, getting to nationals is kind of a long shot for you guys, but what are the goals for you?
Yeah, so the 3 goals we had at the beginning of the year: win the Mountain West Championship, qualify to NCAA Regionals, and then maintain a 3.6 GPA. And we hit all of those. We actually got a 3.7 in the fall GPA. So incredibly proud. And then it's like, what else can we do, right? We hit all these goals. The next step, we want to go to round 2. We feel like we are a team that deserves to be there. And we know that if we put our best gymnastics on the floor that day, we have a great shot. We just won the Mountain West Championship in a very tough environment with 4 really, really incredible teams. And so if we can come in with that same mindset that we want to move on, I think this team can definitely achieve it. And then obviously in round 2, we want to have our best meet. It'll be the first time this year that we've done competitions back to back, which can be really challenging. You don't ever see that in our sport until you get into the postseason. And so I'm really excited to see how they handle just that quick turnaround time and their recovery and their mental game and being prepared for the next meet. So definitely would love to go to round 2, put up a great meet. If we're there, there's some incredible teams with ton of history competing in that session with us. And it'll just be a great environment with all the fans there supporting, and just looking forward to a great competition.
You actually brought up something I was kind of curious about, because I've always looked at gymnastics as, obviously, it's an incredibly physically demanding sport. Because there's some sports you can do back to back. As physically demanding as all sports are, some you can pull off a lot of games in quick succession. I've always viewed gymnastics as not one of those sports. And yet, when I saw the schedule, I was like, you're doing how many meets in a row? Just how difficult is that in a sport like gymnastics?
It is incredibly difficult. And, that's something our association has been continuing to try to fight for, is like a rest day in between, because just one competition is so mentally and physically draining for our athletes that trying to come back on day 2, less than 24 hours later, and doing the same thing, it's just a lot. And so a few years ago, round 1, 2, and 3 were actually all in a row. And there was a team that was in round 1 that actually qualified to round 2, ended up doing really well in round 2, qualified to round 3, and their athletes had to go 3 days in a row. And that's really unsafe for our sport. And so, we do things when we practice. We always practice back-to-back days for the majority of the time, so that we're kind of preparing them to get ready in the postseason. But you never truly know what they're going to do until they're placed in that moment. So, they're prepared for it. They know that it can happen. And so they've got to put themselves in the mindset of doing everything they possibly can on the front end to be recovered and ready to go for those 2 days. And I think from a scheduling standpoint, we've been very strategic in how we maintained our practice schedule from the conference championship to regionals to make sure that we are maximizing the most recovery time going into these next 2 competitions.
All right. Utah State Gymnastics coach Kristin White, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes.
So there we go.
There she is.
Me and 1.5 mics for the interview. But yeah, it was a great chance.
Hearing her response is more important than hearing your question.
Yeah, and so thankfully it was the right mic died, because that would have been really awkward. But yeah, it's fantastic being able to sit down with her. But yeah, we're up against the break, so we gotta take this break real quick. Then we've got some texts on the Full Court Press text line coming up next that we'll get to as well.
Winter is almost over, and the Sportsman on Main Street has tons of season-ending deals. All skis and ski boots are 40% off. If you need outerwear, it is up to 50% off. All fall and winter casual clothing is up to 70% off. At the Sportsman, we have truly unique clothing and outerwear, so you won't see yourself coming and going. It's our season-ending sale going on right now, only at the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan.
Welcome, friend, nice to see you again at the Sportsman.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
A mouth-watering Cafe Sabor burrito, smothered in cheese and fresh guacamole with endless chips and salsa, plus your favorite drink, all for just $7.95. It's Locals Day at Cafe Sabor. Every Thursday, the drinks are bottomless, the chips and salsa are endless, and the burritos are amazing, all for just $7.95. There's nothing better. It's Cafe Sabor's way of saying thanks, Cache Valley. Don't miss Locals Day every Thursday at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station, 6th West and Center in Logan.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006.
Locker 42 is a store for Utah State fans. Many of the items you'll find there are custom, one-of-a-kind, produced by Locker 42. Such production allows for the best possible prices and custom orders that are unheard of at this level, and is one of the highest contributing licensees for royalty sales. Your purchase at Locker 42 is supporting scholarships and student athletes. Hoodies, t-shirts, hats, jackets, everything Aggie is at Locker 42. Locker 42, a store for Aggie fans by Aggie fans.
Rely now on a York Affinity Premium Comfort System to keep your home cool and comfortable. The new Affinity systems are smarter and more connected and more efficient than ever before. And you can cut your energy costs by as much as 50%. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, to schedule a free system evaluation. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning showroom is west of DI and online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
The end of winter sale continues at the Young Power Sports of Logan on all their snow gear, all their winter apparel. Huge selection of name brand one-piece snowsuits, boots, jackets, all winter apparel up to 30% off. And while you're there, make an offer on a used sled. All offers will be seriously considered. Go check it out, Young Power Sports of Logan. They guarantee the best snow check price on all sleds in the Intermountain West. Once again, thanks to Coach Kristin White taking some time to sit down with Jason. The team gets ready for NCAA Regionals this week in Salt Lake City. And the Mountain West Conference champions, very talented athletes with the opportunity to continue to compete. So wishing them the best of luck this week.
Yeah, hopefully they do their best. Obviously, got to win that play-in. That's huge for them. Get that play-in. Get to that second round, kind of de facto round one, but it's called the second round after the play-in. So be absolutely massive for the Aggies.
Let's get to the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. 2444 sent this in. Well, since this is about the most boring Final Four of all time, let's talk some Aggie basketball. I've seen reports on Twitter of Utah State being in contact with numerous transfer portal players. Do you guys know if any of them have upcoming visits scheduled? And of the ones that have been reported, which players would you most like to see join the squad for next season?
So I can't speak to if any of the reported ones have visits. I know they are doing visits, and they are scheduling things as much as they can. We've been trying to have Coach Calhoun on our show, and we're having to work around his schedule of doing all of these things with NIL, with transfers.
Yes.
So they're obviously very busy and going through the process. So I don't know if any of the specific players have visits currently. I know that looking at the reported interest, a little different than from what I was anticipating, because basically they've been going after point guards and wings. I'm not surprised by the wings, because that's they need a wing. They need to replace Ian Martinez. They need someone at that small forward spot, preferably somebody with length, someone 6'5" or taller, just to have a little bit more length in the lineup.
Right, more versatility.
Seen some interest in power forward types, not really any true centers. The one kind of true center, I might say, there's been some interest. Well, I guess there was some reported interest in Carter Welling, I think, as well as Jeremiah Cherry. But most of the reported interest has been in small forward like players and 3 or 4 point guards. I don't know if they're going to land any of those point guards because they are in high demand. But it is kind of interesting seeing some of those reports where there's a lot of talk about big men, and they are either just under the radar in terms of looking for a big man, or just they're not looking as hard for big as Coach Calhoun was thinking late in the season.
Yeah, they could be more expensive to find, or they already have somebody lined up, or it's hard to know. That's been a little bit quieter on that front. Elijah Price is another one that I've seen, former Fresno State player. Utah State is listed as one of those schools showing interest in him. Yeah,
there's a few that I like. Tanner Toolson is one that there's been a lot of talk over, especially given there's Utah connections. Kind of Carter Welling, the same thing, where it's like they're both in Utah, so there's an assumption that maybe they'd have a bit of an in, and especially because they were interested in Carter Welling last transfer cycle. Tanner Toolson is one. There was another one. I can't remember his name, and I don't know if I could have pronounced it anyway because I only saw it written. He was a wing from St. Bonaventure. I think his last name is Jones, and he's another one where there's some reported interest, I believe. Similar position, not super similar archetype. But they're both, 3-and-D type wings. So I don't know if I can go super detail on the ones I'd like because there's several of them. But the Aggies they're clearly targeting good players that would fit well. Except for Elijah Price. I don't know. He was super inefficient last season.
Yeah, but he's a freshman.
Yeah.
And what he did as a freshman is still pretty solid.
Numbers-wise, but efficiency-wise just makes me cringe a little bit.
On a bad team.
Yeah.
Put him on a good team around with good coaching. Could see either he's not quite what he was, where he could do whatever he wanted before, or get him in a little better structure and he really blossoms.
That's a possibility, and that did happen to Dexter Acano. His efficiency numbers weren't particularly great, and he turned into a 40+% three-point shooter. So maybe that could happen.
Another text, 5338. Have a good show today, guys. Remember, nothing easy.
Nothing easy.
Thank you. And then 2305. Seems to me like the Aggies could use a few more guys who are consistent shooters on this team, in addition to the wingman who can shoot.
Yeah, I mean, you lost arguably your two best three-point shooters in terms of a combination of volume and percentage. Because I think Dexter was the best in terms of percentage, and then Ian was your best guy in terms of volume plus percentage. Mason was obviously up there. I think his three-point percentage might have been higher than Ian's. I'd have to double-check. They were pretty close. But Ian, in terms of volume and percentage, like those are your two best three-point shooters, and you're losing both of them. So you need, unless Tucker Anderson magically gains his three-point shooting prowess back, which you hope that happens anyway.
It can happen. Yeah, it can happen.
Guys can have down years. It can happen to players, but you want to bring in some guys because you just straight up lost a bunch of good three-point shooting. You need to replace that, and that's most likely to happen by bringing in wings and guards.
Yeah, so it's a combination of addressing immediate needs, but also developing the players you already have.
Yeah, like getting Mason.
It's a combination of both.
Getting Mason to be a higher volume because he worked his way into being a highly viable three-point shooter. Now add some volume to that. Get Tucker Anderson back. Work on Drake Allen. Get Dayton Albury up in terms of volume because he was
get
pretty
Jordy
high.
To actually shoot the ball from time to time.
That'd be nice too. So there are ways you can have some internal development in that respect. But obviously, when you lose two shooters like Ian and Dexter, you have to replace those in some form or fashion with something. And they're very clearly targeting a lot of guys who have really good three-point shooting.
Yeah, since we were talking to Aggies before we take another timeout, over the weekend, Isaac Johnson announcing he is headed to Hawaii, which good for him. You know what? Opportunity to go play in Hawaii. It's great. They're in the Big West for one more year before they join the Mountain West in all sports. But Hawaii has had some moments where they've been a pretty solid basketball program. But look, the writing was on the wall. Like his effectiveness and opportunity to be an impact player or a significant rotation guy, it wasn't happening here under Coach Calhoun. So in your final years of eligibility, go somewhere where you can have fun playing basketball and actually see more of the court. In a system that's going to work more for what you can offer.
Yeah, and honestly, I was expecting him to transfer in-state, but so I was a little surprised at how far away he's going. But hey, big fish going across the Pacific makes a whole lot of sense there.
There you go.
Yeah, he as you're saying, he needed some place where he could go and fly free or swim free, I guess, for keeping with the fish puns and whatnot. But yeah, I think he's, as I said, when he went to the transfer portal, I knew that he could go somewhere, have an impact so long as he fit into a system, somewhere that could utilize his talents in a way the Aggies just weren't. For better or worse with the system that they were running. So good to see him landing in a good spot, and Hawaii will have a very good player on their team next year.
Yes, they will. All right, another quick timeout, and when we come back, I don't know that this is going to be the most boring Final Four, but we'll also talk about Aggies in football getting some recognition, and Pick Six. How do we do on predicting what would happen over the weekend? Those results next on the Full Court Press.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gscgenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
What is love? Love is what we live for. Love is timeless, never-ending. Love is when you say your name with hers and it has that special ring to it. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we know what love is. Our fine collection of engagement rings feature a variety of diamonds and colorful styles. And if you can't find your perfect ring, Jarek's Fine Jewelry will help custom design one that is the perfect fit. When it's love, it's Jarek's Fine Jewelry.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent with Alpine Home Medical. This is a story that came to us from a real customer, and I wanted to share it with you.
I'm a new CPAP user. The only thing I knew about CPAP when I walked in the door was that I didn't want to wear one. The introductory class with the respiratory therapist at Alpine was great. I left feeling confident and less intimidated by the whole process.
We love hearing about your experiences. Visit us online at alpinehomemedical.com.
Alpine Home Medical. We bring wellness home.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Les Olson IT is your source for top quality technology. We carry the latest desktop and laptop PCs in stock, configured to your specific needs, and backed by our award-winning support team. And if your business demands high-performance hardware, we offer custom-built computers that can tackle any task. We also offer great computer accessories like monitors, keyboards, speakers, Fujitsu document scanners, and more. Get a quote today.
Les Olson IT.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
The Napa K-Slot oil sale is continuing on with Chevrolet Dello 15W40, only $13.99 a gallon. Valvoline Premium Blue 5W40, only $24.99 a gallon. And Royal Purple 15W40, only $29.99 a gallon. Go find those and many other deals available now at your locally owned Cache Valley Napa Auto Parts. So the UFL is underway. Their season just got started, and former Aggie on one of those rosters, Siaosi Mariner, is with the who's it with? Memphis?
Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, the Panthers.
Michigan Panthers. So he's really the only Aggie currently in the UFL. So for those keeping track, keep an eye on what's going on with the Panthers. They did win their opening weekend. Just trying to pull that up.
Yeah, I believe he caught a few passes.
See if there's any stats that I can't seem to find them.
Yeah, I was looking him up too, but I believe he caught a couple of passes in that game. Let's see, I finally found a box score. It's hard to find these box scores because it's more of an obscure league. 3 passes, 35 yards, targeted 5 times. So a decent outing there as the Panthers beat the Showboats. Because that's their real name.
I thought they beat the Stallions.
No, unless I have the wrong. Yeah, it was yesterday, March 30th. Panthers 26, Showboats 12.
Sorry, they played they did play the Showboats. They played the Stallions this next week. Sorry, that's my bad.
So a good start for Siaosi Mariner. He was a decent producer for Michigan last year. So having a decent career in the UFL so far. We'll see how long he keeps it up.
Speaking of football, professional football, we've got the NFL draft just a few weeks away, starting this next month. And Jalen Royals is creeping up on some of these lists. And we'll continue to keep an eye on how well he does. Not a lot of time to get into that, but happy to see where he may end up and how he is being perceived. But before we finish up the show, we need to get into our Pick 6 results and determining how well we did and trying to predict what would happen over the weekend.
Yeah, so let's get into it, starting with the lines that I had. I had BYU versus Alabama, total points. I set the line at 178.5.
Oh, my gosh. They totally sailed over that.
Eric, you took the under. I took the over. They combined for 201 in Alabama's 113-88 win over the Cougars. Next, number 1 seeds in the Final Four. I set the line at 2.5. I took the under. You took the over. All 4 number 1 seeds. Just the second time in history that they've all made it to the Final Four.
First time since 2008.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we're tied 1-1. And then Shimon Zapala, points and rebounds in the Sweet 16 game for Michigan State. We both took the under on the 8.5 line. He didn't play, so we both get it.
We both got that.
So we're tied 2-2 going to your lines. Cubs total runs against Arizona in their 4-game series. They split that series 2-2. You set the line on total runs for the Cubs at 15.5. I took the over. You took the under. They had 21. Helped a lot by the 10-run game they had.
Yeah.
So I'm up 3-2.
Bad for me, good for the Cubs.
Yeah, good for the Cubs. Surprised you took the under, being a fan of the Cubs. Walker Kessler, points, rebounds, blocks at Denver. You set the line at 19.5. I took the under, you took the over, Eric. He didn't play either in that game. So 0. So you got to take that into account, apparently.
Yeah.
And then the final one, so I'm up 4-2 now. Saves by the Utah Hockey Club against Chicago, over under 19.5. I took the over, you took the under. They had 27. So I take that one as well.
You crushed it again.
5-2. I would have also won the tiebreaker.
Of course.
So there we go. That's pick 6.
There you go. Pick 6. I didn't do very good.
I'm on like 5 in a row now. I'm building a streak, Eric.
Yes.
You best watch out.
I got to break this streak. Shortened show today. We got Utah Jazz coming up. Make sure you tune in tomorrow. Big show scheduled for tomorrow. We've got Coach Jared Calhoun, who will be on. We'll also be speaking to former Aggie great Jalen Moore. So definitely want to stay tuned for tomorrow's show. It will be a full show, and we're going to have it packed. So stay tuned for that. Excited to talk to Coach and Jalen both. And see how things are going for both of them. So stay tuned for that. Utah Jazz basketball is going to be coming up next here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. And then we'll be back at it again tomorrow starting at 4 o'clock. And be sure to tune in online or over the air. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Napa Case Lot Oil Sale is happening now. They carry all the best brands, including Chevron, Schaefer, Amsoil, Rotella, Valvoline, Mobil, Royal Purple, and most of them are on sale at any of your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Cache Valley.